I'm taking the team total. I'm taking first quarter, first half, full game, taking it all. OU all the way. I lost so much money on OU.
Whoa, he has trouble with the spin, and the ball is free.
Cast starts with, all crazy. And they run through our ass like shit through a tin horn, man.
That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss.
What is up, and welcome to Not Another CFB Pod. This is the Week 9 College Football, Week 8 NFL review show. We're going to be talking about the whole slate. It was a great weekend. I did pretty okay in college, did really well in the NFL, tailed my good friend Coda Capper Beast here's picks on that Sunday, which actually made it an even better day. How was your weekend, Beast? What are we thinking?
No, it was same thing for me as far as Saturday, up and down day. It wasn't perfect. But Sunday, I did really well. I went 3-1 on my picks yesterday. So, hey, if we're doing 1 out of 2 days where we really tear it up, I mean, it still was a winning weekend for us at the end of the weekend.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Yeah, looking forward to this week. We got Maction coming up. Every day of the week's going to be football, man. Like, I love that shit.
Every day of the week. And I think it was the other day, and we could have announced it. I think it was last Thursday. So beginning last Thursday, it was 29 straight days of football.
Yeah.
Pretty sure. College or pro. I'm pretty
gotta
sure.
Gotta love it, man. Gotta love it.
We're just peaking right now. I'm excited. It was a great weekend. Tonight is Thursday night when we're recording this, or sorry, Monday night. And it's Halloween. Goodness. It's Halloween, and our little family went out as Toy Story. That was kind of cool. And anyway, it's a good time to be just doing this. We're right in the middle of the season. The vibes are incredible. I don't know. Did you do any Halloween festivities this weekend?
Yeah, Saturday night, went to a Halloween party, so kind of got to get a little bit of, Halloween celebration in because I didn't really do anything tonight.
Yes, I forgot about that almost. You need to tell people about your costume. I thought it was an excellent costume.
Oh, yeah.
If you follow Beast in the right places, he had a pretty incredible fit this weekend.
Yeah, I posted on my Twitter, so if anybody's looking for it. But I was Eminem this weekend, and I wasn't like 90s Eminem. I was like Eminem now, like what he looked like in like the Super Bowl last year, probably.
Yep.
I drew on a beard, and I had like my hood up and stuff. It came out a lot better than I expected, if I'm being honest. But it ended up being pretty good. So if anybody's interested, go check that out on my Twitter. Got some good feedback.
I just thought it was good, and I got to see kind of an exclusive video that not a lot of people saw, but there was a video of Beast. I think he was rapping "Lose Yourself."
Yeah,
kind of lip syncing it, and it was electric, especially when you consider that Beast is kind of a Detroit guy anyway. It works so well. It made me really happy. I think that was Saturday night. Yeah, so that was a good time.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, excellent weekend. Let's hop right in and talk college football, though. Pretty cool weekend of football. We got a lot of games to get to. Anywhere you want to start in particular? If not, I'll kind of just go chronological like we normally do.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably start with that Friday game that I think we both had a play on, that ECU and BYU game, if you wanted to hit on that.
Yeah, so I'll just mention the games before that, but we'll stop there at that East Carolina BYU game because it was kind of, I think Beast and I nailed that one. Utah, Washington State, I had the under in that one. Utah wins it on the road 21-17. Pretty good game. We're a Utah podcast. It's no mistake. It was just kind of a ho-hum. They were fine. I think Washington State's maybe a little underrated because of their record. But it was a fine performance from Utah, getting a win on the road in the conference. It's not easy. Then you had a very ugly game, NC State at home versus Virginia Tech on that Thursday. 22-21, NC State takes it. It was just, I don't know if you caught any of it. It was just ugly. I don't even really want to get there. It was a huge comeback by NC State to win that game with the backup quarterback, though. So shout out to them for that. Let's talk about ECU, BYU. East Carolina beats BYU in Provo, Utah, 27-24. I think we both gave out ECU +3, +3.5, wherever you could get it. Not only does that cover the money line hits too, and I think we said on the pod to sprinkle that ECU money line, if I remember right. So that was a nice hit for us to get the weekend started.
Yeah, no, I was really excited watching that game just because we had so many people between us and other guys at the network that were on ECU. And that was one of those games where I was watching ECU the whole game, and it just felt like at times I was like, man, they're playing really good ball. They just weren't necessarily putting up the points to match it. Like they had like 425 yards of total offense, I was like, man, like they're really moving the ball. They just weren't always getting points, and they picked it up in the second half. Ended up outscoring BYU and pulled it off for us. Even if they just covered, it would have been fine, but they won outright. So I love that, man.
Yeah, let's talk about a win that I wasn't expecting Saturday morning. I gave out Ohio State team total over. It was like 38.5 or 37.5. Ohio State beats Penn State in Happy Valley, 44-31. I want to hear from you on this game. You're the Big Ten guy for the most part. I watched a lot of this game because I had that bet. I was pretty impressed with Penn State. Like they did a lot of good things, but Ohio State came up with the miracle cover on the team total over for us. They had a pick six at the end of the game. It looked like they were going to cover minus 15 or whatever it was. Then Penn State comes down the field and scores another touchdown. So if you had the over in this one, you're pretty pumped. But what'd you think about that game, Beast?
That was a wild game. I got to be honest. I didn't expect Penn State to keep up in this game as much as they did. And frankly, at halftime, I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, Penn State, like if they get hot in the second half, like they could win this game. But it just, Sean Clifford, as good as he played at times, he played really bad at times too. And like you said, that late pick six, like really sealed it. Because they were moving the ball. They put up 31 points on Ohio State. Like their defense had some issues. Obviously the pick six didn't help anything. He had 3 turnovers himself, Sean Clifford. So actually 4, he had a fumble as well. So he can't be turning over the ball that much and then expecting to win. But that's a tough place to play. So I give Ohio State like a ton of credit for that win. Just don't really know what to expect out of Penn State going forward,
I know their season's really in a spot where it's in the air because they look better than maybe their record would indicate, but this team is capable of playing to far worse than that record. You know what I mean? Like this season really feels like it can go one of two ways for them. Either they kind of do a thing and win out, or they let that loss get to them because of the way it kind of finished that fourth quarter and their season goes downhill. We've got a couple rivalry matches we need to talk about from this weekend, and I hate to do it, but we got to talk about Michigan State, Michigan, just because we put a lot of emphasis on that in our last pod. Michigan wins at home 29-7. Michigan State covers, though. There's that. Great teams cover. That's what they say.
They did cover. They didn't look good at all. At halftime, I guess they were only down 6.
Yeah, it was a game at halftime for sure.
So I thought, okay, like I'm all right with being down, 6 points here. I'm like, I believe it was actually 9, but regardless, they were within that game, and then just second half, they just fell apart. We kind of had an idea that might happen just because Michigan seems to kind of just grind you down until your line just can't hold anymore. And that's what they did. And just late, they just kept piling it on. And I was happy that Michigan State covered, just for all the gamblers out there that I said, oh, yeah, I would take 22.5, 23, whatever.
Yeah.
But they played bad. And then the after the game incidents was just an absolute mess. It was a bad look all around. It was kind of a sad day to be a Spartan, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it didn't go the way we thought it might. And if you don't know what Beast is talking about, basically, and I'm going to potentially get into this more later, but Michigan, the Big House, is a Mickey Mouse stadium. It has one tunnel. All the players go through it. And I get it, it's old school or whatever, and they use it, they try to intimidate the other team, whatever. They have one tunnel. So after the game, Michigan State's walking in to their side of the locker room, and a couple of the Michigan guys, I don't know if they're trying to get the locker room early. I haven't heard the details that have come out of it, but basically there ends up being a brawl, and obviously it's like 15 Spartans on one Michigan guy, 2 Michigan guys, whatever. It's not a good situation, but I almost want to put as much of this on Michigan. This was going to be my one big take, so I'm taking my moment here. I almost put as much on Michigan in this situation just because you're putting the not only Michigan players, but the other team's players in jeopardy when you have them walk in the same hallway. I get that it's old school, it's an old stadium, and it's cool. They don't want to do big modifications, but there's got to be at least a side door or some other way for these teams to get in there. But not a pretty scene by any means. I think a lot of that is caused by the fact that there's only one tunnel, and we haven't seen what really started the altercation other than we just know the Michigan players were up and where the Michigan State players were, basically the whole team.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some people out there that are like, oh, man, that's a really hot take, and they'll think that you're justifying the violence. But that's not really what PG's saying here. I think you can, I was talking with my brother about this, who's a Michigan fan. And I think you can simultaneously say that, like, it's absolute bullshit that Michigan State took that to violence, like a rivalry, and words should never turn to that, and you should never be jumping a guy, like that.
Especially after you lose,
Yeah, it was a scumbag move by Michigan State, 100% through and through. You'll hear me say that as a Michigan State fan. It was a bad day to be a Spartan. Just with that said, I think you can say that, and you can say that it's absolute garbage, it's absolute bullshit, and it was a scumbag move. But you can also simultaneously say that Michigan needs to make some changes in, how they do their tunnel, whether that means building a different entrance, or a different way to get into the visiting locker room for the visiting team, whatever they need to do. This has been an issue for years now between Ohio State when they play there. Just 2 or 3 weeks ago, James Franklin was complaining about it, and everybody's like, oh, he's whining. No, like, ironically, a couple weeks later, clearly something worse happened. And maybe that's what James Franklin was getting at, is just that something like this could happen. So I just, in my opinion, like, I think you could simultaneously say absolute scumbag move, garbage. They should never be doing that. You should never take to violence. But you can also say, hey, there needs to be some changes made out of this, or else it's just going to continue to happen because it's a battle sport. And unfortunately, kids are 18 to 20 years old, and they're
emotional.
Stupid. They're stupid
and emotional, and I should have been more clear on that. It still, like, should never come to punching a guy after you lose by any means, but you also can't facilitate those opportunities. You know what I mean? That's away from the cameras. You're in the back room, your whole team's around. So if you start losing the fight, they're going to jump in. They probably jump in anyway, just like they did. So anyways, we'll get away from that, but that's, we did have a couple other rivalry games that I was going to get to.
Right.
We had Florida, Georgia, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Georgia wins it 42-20. Another good performance from Georgia. At the same time, I don't know what to think about Florida. What did you think about this game?
Georgia, to me, looks like, as dominant as any other team in the country right now.
Just like you want to see the number one team be.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I'm sure there's some people that are, really high on Tennessee entering this week, and, probably plenty of people on Michigan as well with how they've looked in all their games and all their tests so far, even Ohio State. So, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there. But to me right now, Georgia, they're the national champions last year. They returned still plenty realistically, and they've been dominant in almost every one of their wins. We saw them have to struggle with Missouri earlier in the year, but they don't look like the same team that struggled with Missouri. Now they're starting to blow teams out again,
Yeah, the offense has gotten rhythm. They've got just a dynamic weapons all over the board. And I think that offensive line and defensive line both have started to come together quite a bit. They still got some room to grow, but that's kind of what's scary because they're already number one. So, like, what's this going to look like?
Yeah.
Let's keep going down the board here. We also had a really surprising result. Kansas State beats Oklahoma State 48-0. And this was on K-State's backup, Will Howard. I don't know what happened. I mean, this is as big of a question mark head scratcher to me as when OU lost 49-0 earlier this year to the Texas Longhorns. But at least in that game, you could say, well, OU didn't have their starting quarterback. That's not the case here for Oklahoma State. Now, I don't think he's 100%. Like, you can tell that there's something going on there with Spencer Sanders. He's not 100%, but still 48-0 is a pretty wild score. Just kind of catches you off guard when you're looking at the number 22 team versus the number 9 team.
Yeah, no, that game was 35-0 at half. Just absolutely from start to finish. Like, they dominated. When you're down 35 points at halftime, there's two ways you can go. You can either kind of turtle, or you can kind of come back and rally, kind of at least make it a closer loss. And, not necessarily to disrespect Oklahoma State, but they never got it going at any point in that game. They got double the yardage, is what Kansas State had. I want to say Kansas State had 495. Oklahoma State had like 215. So just absolutely just annihilated them, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
So it is what it is, but yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about another annihilation that happened because this one will catch your eye too. Tennessee 44, Kentucky 6. Will Levis, man, what a tough week for him. I know that before this game, the article came out, whatever, he likes to watch Josh Allen film because he feels like they're a very similar player. And I want to take up for him just a little because I get what he means by that. He's not necessarily saying that they're the same guy, but he's trying to model his game after the way Josh Allen plays, which a lot of us would like to. I just think it came off a little cocky, and people are already kind of on Will Levis for being kind of fraudulent. And it was not a good day for him. 3 interceptions. He was just, and some of those were just the worst throws you're going to see. But Tennessee, man, there's a reason people want them to be number 1. I still have them at number 2 personally as well. But hey, college football playoff rankings Tuesday night, the first ones come out, the first official ones the night you're listening. We'll see, but this could very easily be the number 1. You know how the college football playoff is, that first ranking, they love to do something a little wacky.
Oh yeah.
There's a very real scenario too of 3 SEC teams getting into the playoff, and we'll talk about that later because we talked about it before. But yeah, Tennessee 44, Kentucky 6, man.
Oh, dude, the Hendon Hooker Heisman show is started. Like it's been going all season. Like let's be honest here. Hendon Hooker's looked outstanding all year, but he really just turns it up in some of these games. Like that was a casual 3 touchdowns for him passing, another touchdown on the ground. Like he didn't even have his best game because he didn't need to. He just threw for a casual 245, 3 touchdowns. Like the team didn't need him to even be able to put up like these video game stats, but we know if we wanted to, he could have thrown for 400 in that game. He just didn't need to because they were rushing the ball good. Like, it's crazy to see what, that team is doing on offense right now. Absolutely nobody can stop them,
Right. Let's talk about the next Heisman candidate, and this is who I think wins it. Caleb Williams, the USC Trojans go to Arizona. They beat the Wildcats 45-37. Caleb Williams, listen to these stats. 411 yards, 5 TDs. Like, the dude's insane. He didn't do that much on the ground this week. Normally we see a little bit, but he didn't have to. Like, he threw for 400 yards. Like, this USC team is unreal. It's a video game team, and they didn't even have all their weapons at wide receiver. This was basically their top 2 wide receivers out of the game. And that's what Caleb Williams does. It's Arizona. I know. But that's just, I guess what I'm getting at is Caleb Williams' stats are going to be so crazy by the end of the season. I don't know how he doesn't win the Heisman.
Yeah. No, you're completely right. That offense is electric, and he's obviously at the helm. But the issue with USC still remains that defense, man. I know Arizona
did give up 37 to Arizona.
Yeah, like Arizona has some guys. We've said how much we like Jaden DeLora and stuff, but they gave up 543 yards to Jaden DeLora, an Arizona team that was awful last year. And they're better this year, but they're still not good. They're
3-5.
Yeah,
I mean, like, whatever that is.
They're better, but they're still like just very much middle of the Pac-12. Good offense, but not a defense at all. But it worries me just in the sense that, like, if USC's offense could be so good, but their defense is that bad, they're just never going to evolve. And I don't think that they can win the Pac-12 like that. But maybe they can.
And it's going to sound salty by me saying this, but it's basically just OU again. It really is. You know how good this offense is. Like, this is a college football playoff offense, but we know the defense isn't. We're not gonna trick ourselves. And I get that makes me sound salty or whatever, but I'm watching it with my own eyes. It just looks the same. It looks like rebranded OU. Yeah. Let's keep moving because we still did have some crazy results. TCU, we don't have to stop here. TCU beats West Virginia 41-31. Good win for TCU. They're still undefeated, still rolling. Don't be surprised if they're up there in that top 5 in the college football playoff ranking. They're number 7, I think, in the AP, or maybe a little higher than that. But don't be shocked because they, like I said, love to do random things. I don't think that's the case. If anything, I think TCU will be underrated in the polls, but we'll see. Oregon beats Cal 42-24. I had the over there. Oregon overs are a lot of fun. I just want to tell people, anyone who hasn't taken one yet, they're a lot of fun. Try to find a game we need to stop at. And I think this is a decent one to stop at just because there's a lot to talk about here. Ole Miss beats Texas A&M 31-28. Again, Texas A&M loses. Again, they're kind of embarrassed, this time at home. I think Ole Miss, I didn't go away from this game going, oh man, Ole Miss is really good. They're still a little fraudulent, but Texas A&M gave everything they had. They scored 28 points, which is a lot for Texas A&M. Yeah. And still couldn't beat Ole Miss at home. What are your thoughts? Because Jimbo kind of seems like the bottom's starting to drop out a little bit on Jimbo.
My thoughts are Texas A&M's defense confuses me so much because I feel like one week we'll see them play really, really well and they'll keep a game tight. Like, honestly, they played pretty good against Bama. But at the same time, like 390 rushing yards allowed in that game last week. I just like, how does that happen from what we've said was a good defensive line? And at times this year, they've been dominant and like you can't run the ball on them. And you're having a lot of issues with quarterback getting pressure on them. 390 rushing yards for Ole Miss, like good for them. I think we need to give like hats off to them as well. But what is going on with Texas A&M sometimes? Their defense just collapses at times, and that's exactly what happened this week.
You know what the question with Texas A&M is like, what kind of weed did they smoke that week in the locker room? Was it like an indica or sativa, maybe a hybrid? And that could explain things. I mean, it's as simple as that. Who knows? Obviously, just jokes. Let's see. UCLA beat Stanford 38-13. Dude, UCLA is kind of a wagon, man. I know Stanford's not that great, but that's a good defensive effort to hold them to 13. Scoring 38's fine. I'm sure that was over their team total. We like UCLA. We're a big-time Pac-12 pod. Here's an interesting result we need to stop at for just a minute, though. Notre Dame beats Syracuse 41-24. Previously, Syracuse was number 16 in the country. We thought going in, I think Notre Dame were favored like ever so slightly, or maybe Syracuse was a little bit favored, but either way, it was a close spread. Notre Dame ends up blowing them out. They've got a new identity, I think, offensively. I don't think they're still that good, but they're definitely a physical ball club. I don't know if you caught any of that game.
Yeah, I was able to watch some of it. You're exactly right. That was a weird spread in the first place where Notre Dame was favored, even though it feels like, wait a minute, this game's at Syracuse. Syracuse is, the higher ranked team, obviously. And that's college football for you. Like, you just can't go with the obvious, like, oh, we have to take Syracuse because they're higher ranked, unfortunately. It's always these trap type games, sometimes that get us. I didn't bet it, so it's not like it got me, but unfortunately that's sometimes what happens in these weird trap games like that. But Notre Dame, you're right. Their offense looks a lot better. They're moving the ball.
Syracuse had a good defense, we thought, going into this. Like, I don't want to take anything away from Notre Dame. Like, Syracuse, we thought, was pretty darn good. So, like, that's I thought so for sure.
So to see them lose like that too, to give up 41, not expected. No way we could have predicted that. I thought it would be a lot tighter of a game, if I'm being honest. But
yeah, it's a tight spread, not a tight result. Sometimes that happens. Illinois beats Nebraska 26-9. A good win for Illinois. They seem to be pretty legit. They're up there in that top 25 ranking now. UCF upset Cincinnati, though. Cincinnati's a team that we bet on, but we've been a little bit critical of them. We never said that they were that perfect team that they were last year, but a big-time upset for UCF. I don't think you were on UCF, but you kind of sounded like you had a lean, at least when we were talking about it on Thursday.
Yeah, that was a game that we said just like kind of exactly what you just mentioned, which is that we said we liked Cincinnati, but we said this isn't the same Cincinnati team from last year. And we said that UCF was playing as good of ball as they have all year, and that this game, being at UCF, that there was a good chance that UCF could pull it off. And they did. I mean, they were favored in that game too. So I guess it's not like extremely surprising. It's just surprising in the sense that, Cincinnati hadn't had any conference losses up until that point. Their only loss to that point was Arkansas. So UCF looks like the real deal, man.
Yeah, UCF at home's kind of a different animal, and eventually they're going to figure it out. It's a different team than they've had in the past, right? Where, like Dylan Gabriel, when he was there, for example, it was kind of this wide open, tons and tons of points. They're not really that way anymore. They have a much better defense. They play with a little less tempo. I can't believe we went this long without talking about Dylan Gabriel, though. Let's talk about OU at Iowa State. OU wins at 27-13. I loved this win. I thought OU looked awesome defensively, especially. They turned them over, I think, three picks, and maybe got a fumble or maybe not. OU did turn the ball over once in a pretty critical spot, or I think it could have been an even better score. But the offense, I think, played better than what the point total would reflect. They did have a really sweet fake field goal that put them up 10-0, I think it was at the time. Basically, it looked like a field goal, and it was like from like the 2-3 yard line. And what OU did was they basically opened up the middle of the line, kind of let the rushers go out, and just ran the ball up the middle with the kicker. And he gets in there, this little skinny stick figure guy. we don't have to talk about it. I just thought it was a good win for OU, 27-13. Seems like they kind of got things back on track. We'll see. Big game with Baylor and Norman this weekend. I was trying to go see that one. Don't think that's going to happen, but
yeah,
a decent game. It's our ESPN Plus game, so you'll have to watch that on ESPN Plus. It's at like 2 p.m. Really weird time slot.
That is weird.
Let's got to talk about a couple more games. We got to give a shout out to the Missouri Tigers for our guy Randy Vision. Missouri beats South Carolina 23-10. Very surprising result.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't really catch any of it. That was one of those box scores that just kind of jumps out at you.
Yeah, I didn't watch a lick of that game, but when I watched kind of some of the highlights and stuff, yeah, you're spot on. They were 3.5-point dogs and they end up winning by 13. So
yeah,
big flip in just how that game went. But Missouri shows up in some of these games. We've seen that a couple times this year where they just look inspired out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I want to talk about one more ranked game, and then if you have any additional games you want to bring up, go for it. North Carolina at home beats Pitt 42-24. A really good win for North Carolina. A really good win for Drake May. He does it again. 388 passing yards. What can't this guy do? Pretty special offense that North Carolina has. Don't really have anything on it other than that. Just a good conference win for him.
Yeah,
go ahead.
We love that UNC offense. We said Drake May.
Yeah,
that's the guy, man. Freshman, kid that's got a crazy good arm, man.
They're probably the most likely team to match up against Clemson in the ACC championship as well. So get ready for that because that's going to be fun. A really good offense versus a really, really good defense. Those matchups are always interesting. They're fun to handicap. We will definitely have a play on that game. I can confirm on a championship weekend. We'll do it. Do you have any other college games you want to bring up before we move on?
No, I feel like we hit them all. That was a good recap.
Good, solid. We read off all the ranked games. All the ranked teams got read off there, and we stopped and talked about a lot of them, but that's where we're at. I want to real quickly, before we move on to the NFL, talk about the BetCoda Sportsbook. The BetCoda Sportsbook is a South Dakota owned and operated sportsbook located at the Midnight Star Casino in Deadwood, South Dakota, serving customers in the state. As you enter the Midnight Star, you are slipped into the past with the grand staircase, stunning woodwork, and the elegance of the chandelier. They offer the best lines in Deadwood, so stop by and mention the Coda Sports Gambling Network to receive a free BetCoda shirt. Play responsibly. Must be 21 years or older to wager. Gambling problems or concerns? Call 1-800-522-4700. Shout out to the Coda Cappers again, man. Good weekend for a lot of us. We got a lot of good things going on over at Coda Cappers on Twitter. They're always reposting our plays there, so that's a good place to kind of get everybody's stuff all in one place. That's great. Are you ready to talk about the NFL, man? We had a pretty spectacular weekend in the NFL.
Yeah, we both got hot. A lot of good games too, so I'm ready to dive in, bro.
Yes, we had a lot of good plays. I do want to mention the Thursday night game. It was Ravens at Bucks, and it's so funny going back and listening to our recording last Thursday because we were recording during the first quarter, and we were like, it was 10-3 Buccaneers. We're like, dude, the Bucks are kind of good, and we're like, but there's a lot of game left, and there was plenty of game left. That second half for the Ravens, they scored 24 points in that second half. Take this game over, get the win. I think I had the Ravens. Maybe the Ravens in the under teaser. I think that's what I had. That's a fun play I've been going to a lot with the primetime games. You take the underdog and you take the under and you throw them in a teaser. It's a lot of fun. Do you have any thoughts on that game?
I hate to say this because I don't mean it in a disrespectful way, but right now I just kind of wonder, if Tom Brady has the same mental sharpness that we're so used to him having.
Yep.
He's got so much stuff going on between his wife and his kids. And that's the big thing that I felt like has kept Tom Brady like being like the GOAT is that he's so knowledgeable. He's so like on top of everything.
Locked in and focused.
And I'm not so sure he's got that right now. Now, maybe he proves me wrong. They make a late push, make the playoffs and shut everyone up. That could for sure happen because he seems to do that. But right now, he doesn't look like the same quarterback. I kind of wonder if he's questioning his decision to come back, if that makes sense.
No, I definitely think that's what a lot of people are starting to go. I wonder if he had like a time machine, if he would just stop himself for coming back again this year. He was already retired, if you remember. Like we all thought he was done, and he like kind of came back. And I think a lot of us felt like, ooh, this might not be the best call, and it's unfortunately for him gone really sideways. Let's talk about my dog of the week, though. I took a play on the Broncos on the money line for my my money line dog of the week. This was the London game.
Yeah.
Broncos beat the Jags 21-17. Russell Wilson leads a game-winning, drive there at the end. I don't know how much of this game you caught. It was disgusting. I felt very lucky to come away with a win, but it kind of set up my Sunday from that point. What are your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, that was a pretty ugly game, like you said. These London games seem to kind of be some stinkers sometimes. They're close. They're just never necessarily like the prettiest games. It's not like your elite football, going on. It's not like they're going to put like Bills Chiefs out in London.
Never.
They would never do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it was a nice win for the Broncos. As much as we tease our guy, Russell Wilson, like played good enough. He got them the win. Their defense has actually been pretty solid at times this year because that Broncos offense is pretty questionable at best.
Right.
So their defense has kind of been winning them some of these games at times. It felt like that's what happened on Sunday.
Yeah, they just kept him in the game, and at the end of the game, you get that one drive going, and you win the game. That's like the NFL game. Like if you have a good enough defense, you're gonna win some games.
Yeah,
which is why the Broncos have. I mean, they're 3-5. Some stuff could turn and go the other way. I just don't know if Russ got the juice, but let them cook, I guess, and we'll see where they end up. It was a good winner for me to start off my Sunday. What I want to do now is I want to talk about the Cowboys game, and then I'll let you talk about the Lions game. So the Cowboys played the Bears in Arlington and beat them 49-29. A really good effort from the Cowboys. Even with a couple star players out, they kind of just looked like this is what you want to see them do to like a 3-5 team, just stomp them. The defense had a touchdown. The offense was great. Dak looked sharp again. Had a really efficient day. He didn't have like the biggest, hugest day ever, but just very efficient. Tony Pollard, I mean, he's explosive. He's electric. Had 3 touchdowns on the day. One of the plays I gave out on Sunday was his anytime touchdown, which was like -140. And now I'm like, why didn't I take two plus at whatever it was, plus 300 or whatever? But good win for the Cowboys, 49-29. If you have any thoughts on that game, you could talk about it. Otherwise, you could talk about the Dolphins-Lions game.
I mean, my only thoughts are, I had Cowboys -9.5.
Yes, you did. I forgot. We should have said yes.
That's a pretty big spread. Typically, I don't like taking huge spreads like that, but this was just one of those games. Exactly like what you said. I just looked at the Cowboys and I said their defense is so good. Their offense looks, very solid at times, especially with Dak being back. With week 2 of Dak as well, like that matters. That I feel like getting that, the first week jitters out of the way, kind of off the injury against the Lions was a perfect setup. And then, he came out this week and, really, I felt like he moved the ball exactly how I would have wanted him to. Offense looked great. Put up 49 points, obviously, is pretty nice. Nice defensive touchdown from Parsons. Like, they were just rolling on all cylinders. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. It was a lot of fun. It was a great, great fun day to be a Cowboys fan. So I had the over in Dolphins-Lions, and it was awesome. It was like a college game that first half. The second half slowed down actually a lot. But the Dolphins do beat the Lions. They shut them out in the second half. So the Dolphins win in Detroit 31-27. Man, I really thought this was the one that the Lions were going to have, but came up a little short again.
Yeah, they started the game off up 14-0. At halftime, they were up 27-17. So they had a 10-point lead at half. This has been the story of the Lions this season, is they seem to be actually a pretty good team at times, and then they'll fall apart and they'll blow leads. Like they've done that I want to say at least 2 to 3 times this year, where they've had like either a touchdown or more lead and they've just let it slip. Yep. And at some point, it's kind of come back down on coaching. And like as much as we talk up our guy Dan Campbell and all right, man, we're gonna bite kneecaps, all that stuff. It's rah. Like, but at the same time, we have one win. Like that, we got to get wins at some point. So it's disappointing just because like I'm getting just like almost like it doesn't even affect me right now. I'm very like it's just not even phasing me. So it's just we'll see what happens if the Lions can push, get a couple wins down the stretch. Maybe Dan Campbell can save his job, but I think there's going to be some threat of him being on the hot seat with how he's coaching right now.
Yeah, he's got to be after a 1-6 start. It sucks, but they made a good point on Pardon My Take about Dan Campbell, which was he may be leaning too much into the underdog thing when their team is actually the roster's not that bad. Like it's definitely better than 1-6, I think. Just they got to have both sides of the ball play good on the same day. Like against the Cowboys, the defense was awesome.
Yeah, which
but
made
the
no
offense stunk.
sense. Like,
And then
usually the
this week,
defense sucks.
right? Usually the defense is the one that's been letting them down, but when the defense picks them up, they've got to, they only gave up 14 points in that second half. Like, that's a pretty good performance from the defense against this line teams, which is very talented offensively. But the offense quit coming through, at that point. They kind of cut it off in the second half, didn't score. It's tough. What are you going to do, though? We got to talk about one of the crazy games that happened. Falcons, Panthers. Now, this is a divisional game, and it's a big rivalry, as they all are. I want to set it up, and we'll just start this in the fourth quarter. So the Falcons are up 6. The Panthers are out of time. It's Hail Mary time. Throw the ball up, 65-yard TD to DJ Moore. Games like they're going to kick the extra point, win the game. DJ Moore's fired up. He takes his helmet off, which football vets, that's 15 yards, right after the play. You can do it when you're close to the sideline or on the sideline. He did it in the end zone, took his helmet off, 15 yards. Of course, the kicker misses. Of course he does, because it's scripted. It goes to overtime. I think the Panthers had another chance in overtime to hit a field goal and win the game. They missed that. The Falcons come down. At this point, you've given the game away. The Falcons will take it. They win at 37-34. And the Falcons coming out of this. The Falcons are tied for first place in the NFC South. They actually may have the outright lead. I need to pull up the standings, but your thoughts?
I feel bad for PJ Walker because he played so good in that
great
game. And that was a really nice, late game touchdown. Can't have that happen. And for them to not get the win, I'm not saying PJ Walker's good, but he had one of his better games in the NFL, I feel like, so far. Threw for 317 yards in that game. Even, Deontay Foreman put up like over 100 yards rushing. Panthers looked really good. And to lose that game, that's the kinds of stuff that just frustrates you. I thought that maybe, after Matt Rule left, maybe there'd be a little bit of like a culture change with this interim coach, but just nothing's going their way right now, man.
I know.
I feel so bad for them because they're not that bad. They're not good, but they're not that bad.
What's funny is that they're 2-6, so they're technically a game better than the Lions, but for some reason I would way rather be the Lions right now. And that may just be as simple as they have a coach for now, and you don't. I don't know. It just feels different. That was just that was an all-time loss. A classic. The Vikings get another win, 34-26 over the Cardinals. Kind of a crazy game. Not much to say. I was surprised at this result. Saints beat the Raiders 24-0. You have any thoughts on that game? Because that's pretty staggering anytime an NFL team gets shut out.
The Saints defense has continued to kind of just plod along.
They got some dogs, man.
Yeah, and at times I feel like we kept saying, we're waiting for the Saints to kind of put it all together. And I'm not saying they've put it all together, but their defense has kind of found a little bit of a hot stretch here. And I feel like, they're not doing it every week. We saw them have the issues with Seattle, a week or two ago, but they looked great this week. I don't if the Saints can kind of get hot once again, that division is wide open. We just said, because Tampa Bay, lost
Tampa's
last
3-5.
week. So a lot of games left to be played, but if the Saints could continue to, put up results like that, where your defense is pitching a shutout, it's going to be hard to lose. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The defense is pitching a shutout, and the offense is just doing a good job of not losing the game. They're just staying consistent. They got a lot of good weapons on offense. Andy Dalton's still the quarterback right now, so I don't know what the ceiling is, but you're right. Here's the AFC breakdown. Falcons are leading the division at 4-4. Tampa Bay and New Orleans are tied at 3-5, and then in fourth place, the Carolina Panthers 2-6. Like, all those teams are still in play, so we're going to get a wacky playoff game out of this. That's all I'm going to say right now about that.
Yeah. The other thing about that game that was weird is I want to say I saw it on ESPN that the Raiders did not cross the 50-yard line until 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter or something
third
like that.
quarter, I think.
In the third quarter. Yeah.
But still, that's more than half the game, and you don't cross the line halfway down the field. Insane, dude. I don't know. I thought the Raiders would be a lot better. Shout out B-Russ. He deserves better football teams, man. He really does. Our favorite bald guy at the network. There you go. There's no reason for that. Love you, B-Russ. Okay, so Patriots beat the Jets 22-17. I don't know. I didn't see much of this game. I just know it was an absolute stinker. Zach Wilson had a pretty rough game, but it wasn't like Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi really blew the world away either. But then again, like these divisional games, like you look up and the Patriots are 4-4. It feels like they're a lot worse than that, but they're still in play, quote unquote, for a wild card spot because they have the Bills in their division. Let's talk about the Bills because they're rolling. That was the Sunday night game. So I'm jumping ahead of myself just a little, but I do want to talk about this game because Josh Allen's amazing.
Yeah.
Bills win at 27-17, and that was them just in the second half. They just kind of went, we won this game. Like, we're not trying to do too much. Aaron Rodgers loses again. You're our NFC North guy. You know, how are we feeling right now about what's our temperature on both the Bills and the Packers? Because the Bills, for me, might be the Super Bowl team right now.
Dude, the Packers, they're not good. I feel like I kept wanting to think, yep, they're going to get it going. Nope. No, they're not, because they're just not that good. They have a lot of issues on offense. I thought, okay, well, they'll have issues on offense, but the Packers defense is supposed to be good. It's not that good. It's pretty average. You know, maybe it's a little bit more above average than, you know, some NFL teams, but they're not that good of a team. Like, I'll be straight with you. Like, they're probably like maybe the 15th best team in the NFL. And that's not good enough to win that division. That's not good enough to be, you know, competing in games in Buffalo. They had a late touchdown in that game, you know, to kind of pull off, you know, the cover there. Or actually, I don't even know if they covered. Maybe if you had 10.5, I guess you did get the cover. But if you had 10, then it would have just pushed. But regardless, yeah, they had a late touchdown kind of come through. But the Bills look outstanding. And we knew that was going to happen probably entering the year. We said that was our Super Bowl team, but they're just dominant, dude. They look awesome.
Yeah, I'm shocked. I mean, not at the Bills, because like you said, that was my Super Bowl team, our Super Bowl team. But the Packers, just to play like this, you just think, and that wasn't even the Bills' best effort. That's the scary part. That second half, they were not good. Josh Allen had 2 interceptions in that second half, so it was just not his best game. But a great win for them. I had to talk about them since we kind of segued over. Let's see where we're at. We had the Eagles remaining undefeated, 35-13 over the Steelers. Not much to say about that game other than I'm not sure the Steelers have figured out the quarterback position just yet. Kenny Pickett looked pretty darn bad. Titans beat the Texans 17-10 in a disgusting AFC South game. I think the AFC South is my most hated division, if you can't tell by how I talk about them every week. I don't like watching any of the games. All the teams are bad every year. It's gross. I don't know.
Yeah, 17-10. That's just, nobody wants to watch that.
0-0 the first quarter. I mean, Davis Mills had every chance to win this game. Couldn't find a way to do it.
Texans only had 161 yards of offense on the day, but only lost by 7. Like, that's the story of that division. Happen. Like, it's just so ugly. So ugly a football.
I just hate the way the teams in that division are built. I guess that's my big thing. Is like they like purposely build themselves into one-dimensional teams where it's like we can run the ball, but
nothing else.
If we just have to drop straight back, it's over. If we get in 3rd and 10, you might as well punt it. Like, anyway, Commanders beat the Colts. Big upset for Taylor Heineke, leading the last-minute touchdown drive for the Commanders to spoil Sam Ehlinger's first game as the starter. Another pretty ugly game, but hey, it's another team from the AFC South. So what are you going to do?
No, we said we like the Commanders. Last week you had them as your money line dog. This week I had them as my money line dog. So we actually cashed both our money line dogs this week, guys, which is pretty impressive.
That's awesome.
Because we were struggling with it early. Yeah, we should have parlayed that. But early in the season, we were kind of having some struggles with some of our money line dogs. But we got it going.
Those are just really hard to pick. That's all I know. Those are just really hard to pick. Money line dogs, that is. But it's a little easier with the NFL, I feel like, because you've always got some value. And that's what we took. We took 2 value plays and we hit them. Let's talk about 49ers Rams real quick, because I thought that was going to be a low-scoring game. I think our guy Breeze gave that out as an under. But the 49ers offense comes alive with Christian McCaffrey. They win at 31-14 in LA. 49ers sitting here at 4-4 right now. Looking at the NFC West, Seattle Seahawks still in the lead, but San Francisco just right there a game behind. I just want to say, Christian McCaffrey, I have him on fantasy. He had a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and a receiving touchdown. It was an awesome week to have McCaffrey.
McCaffrey rocks, man. We always say he's Swiss Army knife. You know, he can do everything. He showed it last week, and I think that the 49ers going forward, after adding him, we said we like the 49ers a lot. I took them as a 10-win team at the start of the season. Now they're adding McCaffrey. That offense got a lot better, and it feels like he's probably just as comfortable as, anybody else playing out there because, we know he went to Stanford, so he's been out in California and stuff. So you got to imagine he's probably got some teammates and stuff out there still that might be coming to visit him, whatever. He looks like he's having fun out there, and he felt like last week was finally like the really coming out party of him. Like he really looked good.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. He's just a winner. And so it's good to see him on a good team and doing the thing. Let's talk real quickly about the Giants and Seahawks. Big winner for Beast Picks on Seahawks -3. I was on it. Seahawks went at home 27-13, as I said. Giants were the only NFC Beast team to lose. Everybody else won. Cowboys won. Commanders won. Eagles obviously won. But the Giants lose it. I thought it was an awesome game from the Seahawks. Our guy Gino, especially after that first quarter, man, he was kind of doing it.
Seahawks look awesome.
First place Seahawks.
They got to be one of the most fun teams in the league to watch, just because they put up points. Their defense sometimes has some issues, but they put up points. So they beat the Lions 48-45 earlier in the season, and they had a shootout with the Saints, and obviously this week, like they come out and, they win that game. And you're right. Gino just kind of keeps doing this thing. And Kenneth Walker, probably not his best game, but he had a nice rushing touchdown in there. Seems like they got some dynamic guys on that offense right now. And you got to be excited. Like you said, first place Seahawks, man.
Yeah, first place Seahawks. It feels weird to say it. I think that's why I've said it so many times. So we're sitting here. We're going to move on to kind of talk about this week because Monday night game's going on right now. The Browns just went up 18-0 in the third quarter over the Bengals. So, my little Browns and under teasers looking all right. It's a lot of game left, but surprising result there. Browns kind of doing the thing. I know the defense is kind of the big reason. Jamar Chase being out for the Bengals could be a big deal. I just kind of wanted to preview because going forward, Beast and I are going to talk about, we're going to have midweek Maction now. We've got a bunch of games this week. Normally we'll kind of come with a couple picks just to kind of get you guys through the week. We'll obviously be giving them out on Twitter too, so always stay tuned to our Twitters, but we've got a couple midweek Maction games. And if you want to stop at any of these Beasts, let me know. I do see one game on Thursday in this college football slate I want to talk about, but we've got Ball State at Kent State, Buffalo at Ohio, both those games on Tuesday, 6 and 6:30 p.m. So that'll be a lot of fun on your Tuesday night. Central Michigan, Northern Illinois, and then Western Michigan at Bowling Green on Wednesday. So there you are, bam, 4 Maction games that are going to be awesome. We'll probably have some plays, so just check our Twitter for those because I love these midweek Maction games. I like just taking the over almost always.
Yeah. I was going to say that the over seems to always be like if you're ever watching a Maction game and you don't really have a play, you might as well go with the over unless it's like an extremely public over. But even sometimes it doesn't matter because the MAC isn't really like a conference that people bet all that much. So sometimes the public money doesn't matter. Like it's so hard to predict that conference in the first place. It's just one thing we know is there's typically a lot of points in those games. So like I'm looking at Buffalo and Ohio, total of 58.5, but those are 2 5-3 teams. Like, and I believe both teams I've watched at times this year have their offense rolling. We know Buffalo at times has had their offense rolling. So I might have to look at that one. We'll see, but we'll put something out, I'm sure, this week. Just stay tuned, guys.
Okay. So then Thursday night, we've got 2 games, UTEP and Rice. And then one I think is actually a really good game, App State at Coastal Carolina, 6:30 on Thursday. I kind of like this game. I know App State's fallen off a little bit. Coastal's a really fun team to watch, a really fun team to bet on. So again, I assume we'll probably have a play on that, but if you want to say anything about that game, I think it should be decent.
No, I think so too. We said App State, really, really fun offense. We saw them obviously start the year. They had that big shootout with UNC. Their quarterback, Chase Bryce, pretty good quarterback for, a Sun Belt quarterback as far as that goes. And I think that's going to be a really, really fun matchup. I'm kind of excited to see if App State can go on the road and do something. But we also really like Coastal Carolina and Grayson McCall. Like, there's a lot of fun guys to watch in that game. Total of 63.5. I'm expecting all the points are probably going to be scored. So I'm looking forward to that one on Thursday too.
Yeah, some midweek overs coming your way. Let's also talk about the NFL game on Thursday. We'll break this one down some too. Philadelphia at Houston. It's a little ugly because it's Houston, but like they're kind of scrappy for like a bad team, and especially at home, I would think on a midweek game. Kind of a short week for Philly, obviously, but they're still undefeated. I know they'll be heavy favorites, no doubt about it. Got any thoughts on that Thursday night game?
It's going to be kind of tricky just because, like you said, I want to believe that the Texans can do it and that they can stay in this game, but they're still 1-5-1, and they still look like, they have so much issues. But I'm looking at that spread. It's a 13-point spread, which is just ridiculous. But just out of the precedent of maybe it's just hashtag too many points, I might have to just kind of swallow my pride and just ignore it and just I got to take the points sometimes. Just, close your eyes and just I got to do it. But we'll see. If I end up putting a play on it, definitely, it'll be solely just because of the points. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think I can already tell you that's an under teaser all day for me. Yeah. We're going to be on the Texans plus 19 and the under of 50.
Like that.
Let's go. Texans plus 19 under 50.
That's a great play. It really is.
That's like a college play. That is unreal, but should be a lot of fun. This was a heck of a show for a recap show. Again, these recap shows are going to get a little more expansive because now we've got some midweek games to talk about. We'll have some picks as well. Awesome week of football ahead. Then we're going to have a great weekend too. I don't know if you saw it. This is just a teaser really for the next episode, but we've got Tennessee at Georgia this week. Going to be unreal. Probably number 1 versus number 2.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it on Friday's episode. So be sure to tune in, subscribe, hit us up. This will be out on Twitter as well. So follow us there at Potato Gobbler, at Coda Capper Beast. Follow also the Coda Cappers on Twitter. It's an awesome group of people, great cappers. We're all pretty well up right now. It's been pretty fun this season. So we'll catch you guys on Friday. Have a great week, and we'll see you this weekend. Peace.
Definitely. Peace out, guys.